Hello and welcome to another episode of the Destiny Truthcast. This is episode number 50. I am Lost Souls and I am here with my co-host RedWingGirl. How are you doing today, RedWingGirl?
I'm doing very well, Souls. How are you doing today?
I am all right. It is not raining today. It was raining all day yesterday. I think it's probably another beautiful day out there since it's a little overcast here, I'm guessing.
It's perfect. It's going to be like 90 degrees today. I've got the dog pool out. My dogs are splashing around. It's awesome. Just got done waxing my car. It's really nice. It's a treat because, it rains like 9 months of the year here, or at least it's cold and cloudy. So whenever it's nice out, I try to get outside. So I'm anxious to get back outside.
Well, it's been like a week of beautiful weather there. Is that like a sign of the apocalypse or what's going on?
I don't know. It's something, but I'm happy. I'm not complaining.
Well, we've made it to episode number 50, and it's been quite a journey from when the Destiny Truthcast started to where we are today. And we have two returning guests with us to celebrate our 50th episode. From Nigeria, we've got Carlous Scopalo with us. How are you doing, Carlous?
I'm fine, thank you. Good to be back on the show.
Good to have you back. And we were supposed to have Swedish Bass back on, but he had something else come up, so he couldn't make it. But we also have with us King Cepheus with us. How are you doing today, King?
I'm doing great. Thanks for inviting me back.
Glad to have you back. So for episode 50, one of the things that we kind of wanted to do was to have a episode that kind of has been representative of the Destiny Truthcast experience. And over the course of the episodes, we've had guests on and guardians from all over the world, and we've had people on from all walks of life and people that we've known on the forums forever and had discussions with, King, like you and I, and players that we had never really talked to and just met on the forums through the Truthcast. And so it's really good to have the two of you on today. The experience with when both of you came on is just kind of indicative of what this experience has meant for us, being able to get to know players such as yourselves and to talk about this game we all love.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool way to sum it up because Destiny really is a global game, bringing together people from different walks of life, different ethnic groups, backgrounds. Pretty much Destiny tells the story of, guardians from all over the place, awoken, human, and you have the exos who've been through so many different things, so many different backgrounds, but they come together for one purpose. And that's pretty much what Destiny does to us in real life, really.
Yeah, and it's something that it's been kind of a topic of discussion since this stream and just the players brought together. I know there was an article yesterday, I believe it was Business Insider or Forbes, I'm not sure, RWG if you remember, but they put up with two brothers that got to meet up and go to the reveal together, and just the connection that this game has for them. And like you said, Carlos, players from all over the world. And King, one of the things with this podcast is we've always felt that one of the things that we really wanted to do was to get to know the personalities behind the random gamer tags on the forums, because it's so easy when you're just anonymous people behind a gamer tag to really not understand each other. And I know that you and I had lots of back and forths over the years, and being able to talk about this game in this setting, it really helps humanize things, and you can really get to know people and get an understanding of where each other are coming from. So again, I really appreciate you coming back on, because I think it really changed how we communicate and interact on the forums since we talked the first time on here.
I definitely agree that when you talk with someone actually in person, it becomes a lot harder to treat them like not a person, or to treat them with disrespect, or to, just general talk down to them. Because once you actually are forced to recognize that they are a person of, somewhat reasonable intelligence, that's capable of thinking, which sounds funny, but plenty of times people aren't exactly operating at the best they can when they post on forums. You see a lot of rage posts and whatever, so it's easy to dismiss their opinions. But once you do actually talk to them in some sort of setting where everyone's acting moderately civil, it becomes a lot harder to act incivil later, and you are forced to treat them a bit better.
It's something that to the effect of just the humanizing of the experience. The episode we did last week and our trip that we were able to take, hopefully through what we were able to convey, it kind of was able to humanize Bungie a bit too, because I think that gets lost, and it's the same thing. It's easy to look at them as they don't play the game, they don't care, and just demonize them when it's a bunch of people that, they're human beings that are fans of the game. They love playing the game. I mean, we talked to Pete Parsons and extensively, and telling us how he plays the game with his son and how much it means to him, and his son's a much better gamer than him, but the game is accessible to both of them, and it gives you an understanding of just the people at Bungie as well, and I hope that's something that's come across. But I want to get into the Destiny 2 reveal and just see what your initial thoughts were. Did you both watch the stream as it happened live?
I watched from work, yeah.
Yeah, I watched from work too. I didn't go home till it was over.
So what were your initial thoughts as you watched it, King?
I thought that it looked like Destiny, but new, which is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. I didn't get overhyped by anything, because, with 3 years of Destiny, we sort of roughly know what to expect. But everything I saw seemed interesting and good. I guess it was what I was expecting, really. It wasn't a radical departure. It was just more.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I was kind of surprised at with the responses on bnet, and also some on outside sources, was the feeling that, oh no, it's just going to be another Destiny game, and the ads are reskinned, and all the weapons are going to be reskinned, and BS and whatever. And I am just completely lost on this argument of Destiny 2 has to be like a completely new game where we're going to have new aliens and new everything, and that's the only acceptable second coming of Destiny. And it's just lost on me. Like, any game that you've played that's really big and has, a continuing story, and I'm just thinking of Halo and Mass Effect, they're all the same. They're all the same races. They all have the same, alien encounters, and each game progresses new technology that the game developer is able to bring to the table, but and also in new weapons, and in this case in Destiny, new armor, and how your loadouts are going to be, and supers, and there's just so much stuff they didn't show us purposely so that we could have some surprise, that I was just so disappointed in some of the people's response, that they were just so unwilling to maybe have some kind of assumption that there would be so much more to look forward to, and that because it wasn't going to be some completely new game, that therefore it's just not worthy to buy. And I just kind of find this argument just really bizarre. Instead of being excited for some of the things that we were hoping would come, and some of it we don't even know yet, it's just complete shutdown. Like, oh my God, no dedicated servers. Oh my God, same thing, reskin, BS. And I don't understand it. Like, is it always been this way? I would say a resounding absolutely not. to me, it's just a new phenomenon, and I cannot wrap my head around why it's driven so hard in games today. I just don't get it.
I think the big issue there is that a lot of people are used to games promising them the world and everything. So every time a new game is released, everybody thinks it's going to be the next best thing. They're going to hype it up to unreasonable level. And everyone did that with Destiny 1, right? I mean, Destiny 1, if you followed the pre-release hype, was going to be absolutely amazing. It was going to be an open-world MMO FPS that did whatever and was just incredible and flawless. And then it released, and it was good. You know, I can't say that Destiny's bad because I'm a member of the Bungie Defense Force or whatever. But it certainly didn't live up to the hype. And then they released Destiny 2, and it looks to be...
Do you have a badge
Destiny
for the BDF?
I do have a clan, and it only has 2 members, so if more people want to join so it can be official, please do. Because that would make my day. But when they did the Destiny 2 reveal, you know, it looked similar to Destiny 1, but better. So I think a lot of people are just sort of freaking out about that because they are expecting it to be overhyped, and they're expecting it to, you know, promise them everything again. And in reality, it didn't really seem to do that. It seemed to follow exactly what Destiny did. So everyone that's still sort of burned from that initial hype run where they're still upset that Destiny isn't as great as they imagined it to be are carrying that over into Destiny 2. And we saw some of that in Taken King and Rise of Iron in every expansion where everyone claims that it's not enough content and it wasn't new and everything was reskinned. But I think some people held off the more of their complaints or the brunt of their complaints until, you know, they could use a new game as an excuse.
So, firstly, for me, the reveal was awesome. It actually went beyond what I expected, and that's mainly because my expectations were not necessarily that high. That wasn't deliberate. It was just watching the trend of how things are so far, and how Bungie had been pushing D1 up to this day. And if you really listen to their Vidocs from the past, before the game came out, their podcasts and things like that, they kind of expressed a lot of what they wanted the game to be. And a lot of the times when they would go, we want this, we would love that, we are building a world where we want players to be able to do this. Gears of War 1, 2, 3, Judgment, Gears 4. How much of difference can we see from each iteration to the next? It's still the same game. So why should it change so much? Why is everybody expecting that kind of difference? Then we've had so much issues with ammo and all that. I'm sure we'll get into that later. But I like the fact that Bungie is actually taking a completely different step to ensure no matter how much mastery you have of the previous one, you still have a learning curve for the new one. So it's still new to you one way or another. And I think they're going to start us with new subclasses, even if we're going to get our old subclasses back, because I suspect we're going to get those back eventually. I like the fact that everybody learns first, you know, new things. So if anything, I think they've delivered on that. Then they did a better job with the reveal, in my opinion, compared to Destiny 1, because they were not doing a lot of maybes or this is what we hope. It was more like this is what we've done, right? And they stuck to the good things that they've done, rather than if you look at the first one, there was a lot of talk about you being able to land anywhere you wanted, but they talked about it more like their vision. So right now it's the actual. So they can mix that up again, which is good. You know, I just think the approach they're taking is good for the masses. And like RedWingGirl said, I was also surprised at the volume of negativity we got on the fact that the game didn't change, like 80% change in the new game. If I'm going to pre-order a game, it's because it's a game I know I'll play. I've pre-ordered my copy already. Whether the game is bad or not, I know I'm going to buy it. Why am I waiting then? I might as well get the bonus that comes along with what I know I'm going to buy, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with everything you said. I'm the same exact way. I've already pre-ordered Destiny 2. I know I'm going to play the death out of it, just like I do Destiny 1. And I guess I just don't have the high expectations, or I guess I don't believe that, you know, everything that everybody wants can be done. You know, if it was as simple as that, I think most of the time they would try to do whatever most of the fans want to be done. But at the same time, it's their game. They may not feel that it works well with how they want the game to be played, and so those are the decisions that are ultimately left up to them, or if it's not important enough, or it's not cost efficient or whatever. I asked Cosmo 100 questions about what's going to be in D2, most of which everyone has asked repeatedly in the feedback forum. Like, will we be able to change our characters, or will there be other things that we'll be able to do on patrol, like with 6 people? And he just won't fess up, and I think it's just because there's going to be a lot of stuff that is going to be new to us that I think we'll enjoy in a different way that we were expecting. And for me to comment on what is good and bad about something that I don't even know yet, it's like I have no way of providing negativity on something that I don't know if it's good or bad until I actually experience it. And I don't even think the beta is going to give us quite the experience that we're going to get once we actually start the beginning of this game.
I think it's a unique thing with Destiny that, for whatever reason, there was that initial vision and reveal, and people, for whatever reason, still cling to that, and it's kind of mystifying to me. Once the Taken King released, I think, to me at least, it became apparent this is what Destiny is. This is what the game's going to be, at least until Destiny 2 comes out. When Destiny 2, we went to the reveal, and like you were talking about, King, you have this, okay, what are they going to show? And they showed it, and it's like, okay, it's Destiny. It's this game that we've played for the last 3 years that's evolved a lot since the Taken King release. And so we watch it, but then we had the unique experience of playing it. And RedWingGirl, I don't know if you would agree or not. I think you would, but sitting there and watching that Homecoming trailer, you've got this visual of what it is that you're seeing in the new classes and whatnot, and you're seeing different weapons. But even with that, it didn't really prepare us, I think, for sitting down and playing it. And it was still a shock at how, even though we were still playing Destiny, it was clearly a new game that we were playing, and a completely different experience, but while still built off the same base, just so much evolved. Would you agree, RedWingGirl?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I guess for me it's a little different because, the whole reason why I bought the Xbox over PlayStation was because of Halo. I mean, I still remember where I was at GameStop playing that demo, and I was hooked. And I've been following Bungie from that point on, and you can just see, like, from Halo 1 to Reach, how dramatic they've made changes to character movement and gunplay, and how they just changed how you use your weapons. Both, I mean, just from Halo 2 to Halo 3, and then Reach was just like leap years ahead of all the rest of them, and just in how you moved and how the gunplay was, and I got the same exact feeling from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. It was way higher standard in movement, gunplay, just everything that they learned from D1 amongst themselves, and all the feedback from everyone else. They really changed a lot of stuff. So it is going to feel different. It's not going to feel like you're going to jump on your hunter and you're going to immediately be able to know exactly how your hunter moves, because the hunter moves differently now. So it's going to be a new game, but it's all going to still feel like Destiny, and that's the best part of what I felt they captured. People were saying, well, it feels really Halo-ish. Well, it's Bungie. they've had years of their own way of developing their own kind of games, and it should feel a little bit familiar to Halo. I mean, I kind of felt like Destiny had a little bit of familiarity from Reach in certain aspects. So I just think that it played completely different. It's going to be a new feel for a lot of people.
First, I love that reveal trailer, and it was really awesome. And I don't know if you guys noticed.
Did you catch that it was Amanda Holliday in the reveal at first, or was that something you realized later on? The young Amanda
I knew
in the tower.
She had the tattoo and all that. I knew that immediately when I saw that. But something that got me though, you remember the part where Zavala, during the very first scene, when Zavala woke up and eventually got to the area, the village area, they were being attacked and all that, and it did just before he did the double fist survivor. So he was fighting off falling and everything. Then all of a sudden, two other guys joined him, and one of them was Shax. And just like every other shot where we've seen Shax, he's not holding a weapon. Like, I can't wait for them to develop that character. Let's see what happens. He's been silent, and he's never had a weapon on him. So I can't wait for that one. And he's always looking clean. Anyway, so going to something else that RedWingGirl said earlier, Bungie trying to appeal to what the fans want. So one thing is this: nobody has made this kind of game before. For me, it's an MMO FPS, right? For others, it's an RPG-ish MMO FPS looter shooter, or whatever you want to call it. There's so many different ways you can categorize the genre for Destiny. However, Bungie is able to nail what it is, right? And then they're catering to such a huge crowd. The Halo crowd was specific, so it was easier to cater to that crowd. Just like the Gears of War crowd that Epic Games is focusing on is also specific, and so on and so forth, sports games and all. But in this case, guys that play WoW, they're here. Guys that play shooters, they're here. Guys that play Dota, they're here. Everybody has expectations. So you now have this gray area where nobody will be satisfied. The best you can do is to give everybody a little bit of something, right? Now, onto how the game feels, what I saw with the reveal and then the follow-up play test that you guys did, it was so satisfying to me. And here's why. My Guardian is still my Guardian. I don't have this feeling like I'm going to come in and, oh, this is this new guy I'm picking up. No. This is Carlous Scopalo, picking up the mantle and going on. Something has happened to him. There are a few changes, but it's still the body I know. Now, I think that's an excellent way to carry on the story. Some people may not like it, but I think they'll appreciate it later on. As long as Bungie executes it very well, I'm sure a lot of this salt will settle down. I really hope so. PvP, guys, I mean, that's a whole different ball game. I don't know how that's going to pan out, but it looks like PvE, it looks like it's going to be pretty fun. Like, I'm looking forward to Patrol again.
So the Zavala intro trailer was pretty sweet, which isn't surprising because most Destiny cinematic trailers are really good. Which is funny because the biggest complaint about Destiny, or at least Destiny 1 for most people, is that the story sucks. And it's true that the story sucks, but the lore is really awesome, which is pretty unfortunate. But hopefully they can bring some of that more into the game itself this time, which I think we'll see, because one of the things we saw in the Homecoming mission that can foreshadow, I guess, what we might be able to expect from future campaign missions, hopefully, is we saw NPCs for the first time. Like, that's a big thing. And we also saw in-game cutscenes for, I think, the second time since The Dark Below. I tried thinking of this, and I can't think of any other time when you're interrupted in gameplay to show a cutscene, and then you start back in. I guess the Black Garden had one too, didn't it?
Briefly.
Now,
yeah,
plenty
sure.
of people Yeah, just a little bit. Plenty of people will say, oh, well, this has been around for ages, and this is true, right? I mean, NPCs and in-game cutscenes are hardly revolutionary, but I think that's one of the nice things maybe that Bungie focuses, that Destiny 1 had a lot of really cool sort of like next-gen things, but it also lacked a bunch of things that we consider standard nowadays and have been considered standard for 10 years. So it seems that they've been bringing that back up to par, which is really solid as far as I'm concerned, because, I mean, that's just better. The other thing I noticed is that it definitely seems like we'll be getting more NPCs throughout the story, as we did before, because on the Nessus strike, you have voiceover from some new character that actually has to deal with Nessus. We never saw that really in Destiny 1 through the campaign progression. We didn't meet new characters as the campaign progressed. We started out knowing the Cryptarch and the Vanguard, and it stays static throughout that. When new DLC released, we got the new DLC characters, sure, but never actually in the vanilla storyline. So all that just sounds promising. Like, they might completely fall flat, but as far as I'm concerned, those are really good signs to improving on what people complained about, which was that the story felt flat and you just move from room to room shooting dudes.
So what were your thoughts as you watched Homecoming King on the new subclasses and weapons and just the gameplay that you saw? What were your thoughts on that?
I thought the new art direction was really good. The game looked really nice, a big thing. It just looked better, right? I thought the gunplay seemed a bit odd, but seemed solid. And I will admit, let me rephrase. Homecoming looked really good, though most of the PvE concerns really showed up the PvE interesting bit showed up in the strike. But I am concerned about the new subclasses. They feel good, or they look like they feel good, but they also, I don't know the right way to say this, they feel sort of unoriginal, if that makes sense. I guess one of the cool bits about Destiny, one of the subclasses, but they're decently varied originally. I mean, you had the roaming supers, and you also had the one-use supers, and you had Radiance, which is useless but completely different. And now it seems that they've sort of mixed that up, and they look really strong, which is a good thing. But at the same time, they do look almost a bit too strong, and I'm going to have to wonder how they made the other subclasses match them. Because as it stands now, I don't know why I wouldn't run Dawnblade, or whatever the name of that subclass is called. I assume it's Sunsinger subclass with Dawnblade suit. Like, how would I run Voidwalker or Stormwalk after seeing that? That just looks awesome.
You captured my thought on that. Like, I've been wondering myself, like, how exactly are the other subclasses gonna look? Is it gonna be so good that I will still want to make a choice in those areas, or are they going to all serve specific purposes that will make one go one way or another depending on what you're doing? But what I saw there, though, it seemed more like an Android versus iOS kind of discussion. I hope I won't piss people off by using that analogy, because with what we had before, you had full customization, do what you want based on the skill trees, right? And now we're kind of tailored to, okay, if you want to use this, here are the best things to use for it. So we've chosen that one for you. Make your choices within that area, rather than, okay, here's a bunch of stuff, use it how you please, I don't know if that will play well across all subclasses. I hope it does, but it seems to me like it might be limiting later on. People might feel a little limited, like, okay, because I'm doing this, I'm forced to use this, which is one of the complaints a lot of people had, including myself, with Destiny 1. Like, I go into a raid, and because I'm the only Titan, I'm demanded to be a Defender Titan, So, like, I have a feeling with Destiny 2, with this kind of arrangement, I might not even be able to say, okay, let me use this other thing for this thing because I feel confident with it, rather than this is what you use here. So I hope that won't be the case, but it kind of looks like it'll be. That's my only worry with the new changes for the subclass.
Well, there's a lot of talk about the subclasses won't be as as versatile, as much things you can do. The things that seemed like they were gone, and it was pared down, the class trees, but it looked like what's gone is choosing armor or agility or whatever, a recovery, which I think all that stuff's going to be baked into the armor and how the armor works in D2. But going to the Super, and King, you were talking about the Dawnblade, and I think the new ones are going to replace. I don't think we're going to have, at least I believe, the Defender, the Blade Dancer, and the Sunsinger. I think they're going to be replaced by these 3 new ones, because the Dawnblade was a Sunsinger, except for the new Super, the Dawnblade Super. But that said, these classes have a lot more versatility, and within that Super, you saw the flying in the air and flinging the blades and how badass it was, but it also had, if you held down, I think it was the circle button on the PlayStation controllers, it did a slam on the ground that healed. And the existing subclasses we played were changed as well. The Golden Gun had a lot longer duration, could fire more shots, and each of the classes had a secondary support ability. Like the Dawnblade, just when you're playing, there were 3 cooldowns. One of the cooldowns was you hold down the circle button and you'd slam the ground and make a ring of light, kind of like when you're standing on the things to start up the War Priest, a little pool of light, and it heals you for, whatever, 8 or 10 seconds. The Gunslinger, you double tap that circle, it does a kind of shade step, and it automatically reloads whatever weapon you have equipped at the time. When RWG was playing the Titan, hers was hold down the circle and you make a wall you can duck behind and shoot over, like energy barrier. And then the supers themselves, like the Striker was a roaming super where it was multiple hits. And I did not play that. RWG in a second can tell you the differences in how it played. But the Gunslinger, it was a Gunslinger still, but it was also at the same time felt completely new and fresh. But then the things that were there, like the trip mine, was a trip mine again. It was the old school trip mine from that everyone knew and loved. It wasn't the year 3 Destiny nerf trip mine that doesn't stick to anything. So I think that when people actually play these classes, there might be a lot of fears that it's not going to be as versatile, but within what's there, they're a lot more dynamic as far as what you can do in your choices of abilities and cooldowns, and there's a lot more going on. You're a Titan, RedWingGirl. You love your Titan, you love your Striker. Playing your Titan and your Striker in Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, how did that experience compare between the two for you?
Well, I think the idea of roving supers is cool as hell. And, when we were doing the strike, there was way more enemies that we had to deal with, and we were on the move. So roving supers really kind of was cool. It was a good option. And I think I kind of have the same thing too. Like, oh my God, what are we going to do without the defender bubble? It's like everybody defends on the defender bubble. But, I think that the greatest part of this whole journey is that I hope we do get 3 new supers. And I hope we all figure out how they work together in raids or PvE events, and just getting to learn how to use them, because something will replace that, and either it'll be better or it won't, but it will be something comparable. I mean, I just thought the idea of roving supers in itself, like when I was playing with the Titan, was really cool, because I just kept slamming everybody. And that's what I thought was fun. I mean, you do the Striker once and then that's it. But, there I was doing it like 5 times and I was killing all kinds of stuff. And that was fun. I mean, I thought it was fun.
Yeah, and like you said, it fit in with the dynamic of Destiny 2, and it's hard again to look at these things and say, okay, how would that fit in with D1, because it played differently. There were a lot more enemies. We were constantly on the move, and So, and we couldn't really talk and interact because we didn't have working mics. So it took that dynamic out of it. But I'm interested to see when we get to the beta, how it works with using the support abilities in conjunction with each other. I think that Carlos and King, I think that when you get to the beta and you play it, you'll find that, like I said, it's a familiar experience, but it's an expanded experience, and it's not limiting. I think you'll find it is more versatile, and you have a lot more options of what you can do in any situation, and I think that's really opened up the play a lot.
Honestly, if anything, I'm worried Dawnblade will be too good, because that just looks incredible.
I know what you mean.
Well,
By the way,
I am.
Congratulations! It's your 50th episode. We should have said like 100 million congrats before
Well,
we
thank
started.
you.
It's your golden jubilee. Really, congratulations. Wish you another 50 wonderful episodes ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and going to the Dawnblade, I mean, I RedWingGirl and I have joked on episodes for a while now because the whole Titan Warlock thing, and I've been pretty much maining Sunsinger for the last 3 or 4 months, and it was the actual super itself was kind of hard for me because we were using those PlayStation controllers, so it was and I only did that one on the mission. I did the Hunter on the Strike, but so trying to get used to the flying through the air, flinging the blades and all that with a PS controller was kind of crazy, but it was it just felt so smooth. Like the fusion grenades. I don't know if this will make sense to you, King, but the smoothness of Halo when you threw a plasma grenade and how just smooth that felt. It had more of that. Yeah, it had more of that Halo throwing a plasma grenade feel to throwing the fusion grenade than Destiny. It had a very Halo plasma grenade feel to it that was, like I said, it felt so good and just better.
So no more 90-degree twisting across the wall plasma nades or fusion. No more heat-seeking fusions. I might have to switch off Sunsinger then without my crutch.
Yeah, well.
Oh, I learned.
I just want to go back one thing to the super thing that we were just talking about. It would suck if D2 had all the same supers. I mean, that wouldn't be a new experience at all. I like the fact that, we're all going to have new supers. I mean, if they bring back the old ones, cool, but I'm glad that we're going to have a different experience when it comes to the supers, just like the guns.
Okay, I think with the Titan, I think they pretty much showed us that they changed everything. That's what I'm expecting. Because the Defender was different and the Titan was seriously changed. But the changes made to the Titan were not small, And we didn't see the Sunbreaker class, and we didn't see the other 2 subclasses for the other 2 classes. So I'm pretty sure those kind of changes will be across board. And like you said, RedWingGirl, I also love the fact that everything is different, because that will really play a major role in ensuring people aren't doing what they feel they always knew was good in terms of the supers, which is pretty cool. Especially now that the game is like more balanced between gunplay and abilities,
Yeah, I mean, it just starts everybody from zero again. Everyone's going to have to learn all the same things, and there will be exploits, and I'm sure Bungie will have to go in and nerf things or change things or whatever, but I think it will be good for us all to start at the beginning again and learn, gain our strength as the story goes and get new supers and doing it. I just think that's what you want. If we all had the same stuff, that would just be boring. I mean, even if they gave us more story and more places to go and whatever, it would still, to me, that would be a step backwards if they didn't improve our supers.
Yeah, that's
And
definitely true. And I think it plays well with the 4v4 format that they have with PvP, because making everything 4v4, I still don't know how I feel about that, but with these kind of changes they made to the gameplay itself, having roaming supers pretty much for everyone, having some kind of mobile support, be it the reload for the hunter where he can get out of the top spot and quickly get his weapon back, or the reload for the Titan when he ducks behind that barrier and shoots out of it and he has his weapon back already reloaded. It keeps you playing. The kill time is more, but the time you spend out of shooting seems to be less. So it's like we have much more action going on, and the action is really the excitement, right?
And what were you saying a couple minutes ago, King?
Oh, I was going to say that honestly I wouldn't mind if all the supers had the same general ID, but they would have had they restructured some of the subclasses to actually make them worthwhile. So, like, if we still had Radiance instead of Dawnblade, that would be fine. But Radiance would have had to be made different slightly, because right now it is sort of less interesting than the rest. Same if we had, a one Smash Fist of Havoc, or if we still had Arcblade. But it doesn't matter, right? Because they did change it.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, from the two we played, they do feel changed enough to where it felt fresh and new again. At least, in my experience with the Gunslinger, and I am someone who wrote off Gunslinger a year ago with the trip mine change, but I was enjoying playing it. So I want to ask you, what are some of the concerns that you might have as far as Destiny 2, still looking to see when the beta comes out or when they show something at E3? What are some of the things that you still have questions, concerns? I know, there's a lot of debate about the frames per second and the networking that Bungie have answered in the last week or so. But King, what is there that you still would like to see answered or still have questions about?
So I don't think any of my concerns can necessarily be answered by a single question, which is sort of unfortunate. But the general gist of it is, I guess, how many of the same mistakes, quote unquote, the Destiny 1 make will Destiny 2 make? So, I mean, the Nessus strike looked great, the Homecoming mission looked good, but is that quality going to carry through the rest of the game? We have 4 planets, I think they said, that progress linearly, but they also said that the EDZ is like double the size of Cosmo. So, that's, if people were unhappy with the size of Destiny 2 worlds, which I wasn't really, but maybe I will, that doesn't bode too terribly great either. So, side quests, they have to be useful. They can't just be there, which is an issue that I have with a lot of open world games. Mainly like the Far Cry series, for example. Is they just give you so many side quests that don't really mean jack. I guess Far Cry and Fallout. So I'm sort of worried that they might fall into that trap there. And just general things with leveling and all that. Like the level cap is 20 again. So that sort of concerns me, because how is that going to pan out, right? I mean, are we going to get to level 20 and then have the awkward, like, level 20 to 26 grind that we had in Destiny 1 before VOG? Or
Forever
is it going to be we hit 20 and then, Forever 29? Or are we going to hit 20 and then switch to a light-based system that goes up to 400? Or, how is that all going to pan out? Because we don't know. Now, I never was really a vocal critic of any of that because I played the game and it was fine, but that's still something that might end up being negative. Same deal with there only being one rate. And just I guess the content of, or the amount of content in scare quotes overall seems like it could be a point of contention. Just for what they're trying to sell it as. Honestly, if it's as much as Destiny 1, it'll be worth it, but it just seems a bit odd. And the art design as well seems a bit... Go ahead.
Well, one of the things that they had talked about with their call into Activision was that they, with this new engine, they would be able to provide more DLC or more content more frequently. So I kind of feel the same way you do. Like, I don't want to have like a bunch of side missions where it doesn't mean anything and it's just a waste of time. And I also hope that they're not going to repeat the same level 20 to whatever. I don't know how that's going to work either. I guess I really didn't think about it. But they did say they're going to be able to deliver a lot more content. So I'm kind of hoping that, we'll start with one raid and, maybe I don't know how many strikes. But I agree, they got to, dump in more stuff more frequently so that we're not lingering for 6 months on end just doing the same 3 strikes, because that's going to be disappointing if we fall back into that whole year 1 thing.
Yeah, they fixed their content pipeline back when TTK released, and that was all because of the PS3, so theoretically that should all be better and they should be able to work more, especially since they're not working on another game now. And the other sort of more larger concern is the art design, which sounds weird because Destiny always has looked really good and it always has had a really good sort of world feel to it, which is why I've actually bought some of the art prints that they sell because it's just absolutely wonderful. But looking at both some of the armor and the PvP lighting, I guess, and the Nessus Strike, it doesn't quite look like Destiny, which can be fine. I mean, it can be what Destiny looks like now. Similar to how Halo 4s and 5 look different to Halo 3, but that might not be as good, if that makes any sense. Everything looks slightly different just in terms of the way that all the mobs look and the environments look and the lighting look.
Yeah,
so if that turns out fine, that's great.
Thing. Yeah. I got the impression, playing it like you're saying, just the overall look was, to me, it reminded me exactly of going from Halo CE to playing Halo 2 for the first time, where everything was kind of the same but kind of different, but exactly like you're saying. But I liked what I saw on D2. Yeah, I know they completely redid all the gun sounds, they said, didn't they, RedWingGirl?
Yeah, I think they did.
So, I mean, it all could be great, but still, we don't know. Or at least I don't know. Now, that's probably not going to force me not to buy it, of course. Because, I mean, it can't be bad. It still looked great.
Hey, so the Bungie podcast came back, and they seem to be promising that they're going to keep that up. I think that was maybe 2 weeks ago, 14th or 15th, I can't remember. And in that podcast, Luke Smith was there as well. They actually talked about this, and really, it seems from what they were saying, the goal was just to make what we already know look a little better. And I had exactly your feeling, like, okay, they made it look better, but they also kind of made it look different. But I could see what they were gunning for. Maybe they wanted to also take advantage of the new engines out there that will be able to, upscale. So they already have the textures and everything built in for the upscale to take advantage of. I don't know if that was the case, but with the benchmarks that I saw, it looked great, just like you said, but it did look a little different. I just felt, okay, maybe this was a move they decided to take, or make rather, just to appease people who they felt would want to see something completely different, and also something better taking advantage of the consoles, considering Destiny was made during the previous generation, and this one is being made, Destiny 2 is being made within the current gen. So maybe they wanted to make it obvious that they've taken advantage of all the resources that they have now, rather than previous gen holding the game back. And that might be why we're seeing those kind of major, well, not major, but that level of difference. That's what I just think about that.
I mean, the biggest example is the Cabal's art style, with the bright orange shields and the orange, ball things, the dudes with the cleavers and the dogs that are on the ground and all that is completely different than what we had in Destiny 1. In Destiny 1, it was always pretty much this military green, really sort of simple. And so it just, it's an accent, it's weird. It's
but
bad,
it's a completely different Legion, it's a completely different
Yeah, I know, I mean,
Cabal. And
yeah, it makes sense. It makes total sense. Same thing with the way the Fallen look different and how some of the Vex behave differently. But it's new and therefore it's weird.
My major issue with the Cabal is basically that I didn't see any way the Scions could come back, and there's a lot of lore hidden behind those guys. So I hope they don't toss that away, and we still get to know exactly what those guys signify, what they're capable of, and all the mystery around those Scions. Now that we're dealing with a completely different sect, and speaking of completely different sect, I was going to say earlier when we were talking about the supers and having some of them be the same as what we had before. I would hope that they don't bring back any of the previous ones exactly as it was. And reason why is this. This dude, Gary, came over to our crib and destroyed everything. Most importantly, my vault, right? If I ever got my powers back, I would definitely want to kick it up a notch. And that seems to be what they've done. Like, okay, I have my Fist of Havoc back. However, I'm going to tweak it a little bit, because when I catch you, Gary, I need to really do some harm. That kind of feel, that's one of the major reasons why I like it, story-wise, that is.
Well, I was going to say, I think that to the whole reskin thing, the Cabal are completely different, like you said, King. They are not the Cabal that we have fought the last 3 years in Destiny at all. Some of the Vex, there were new Vex units as well, but the Cabal in particular, the sword dudes, as RWG will confirm, were uber bossy.
Well, so were the Scions. I mean, those things that the Scions that like splash out that purple stuff at you or whatever, and it damages you. The stuff in that was like electric. It was like really bossy. So they definitely ramped it up. It's gonna be cool. I can't wait.
And the snipers were bossy as hell too.
I saw her using that sniper rifle. Oh my god.
But yeah, it was Destiny, but it was different. It was the Cabal, but they were different. And the fucking shark dogs. Oh my god, they were everywhere. And they were bossy as fuck too. Like, there were so many more enemies on screen, and you were constantly, switching between your primaries. Like, I was rolling the pulse for the range, and then the hand cannon for up close. I was running the rocket launcher in the strike, but it was, like I said, it was very dynamic, and it was Destiny, but it was not Destiny. But I want to break away from PvE for a minute and get your thoughts on PvP and the changes that they showed there, particularly in regards to everything being 4v4. So, King, what did you think about that change? Are you a big PvPer now?
I'd still call myself a big PvPer because Destiny PvE hasn't really changed much. It's still pretty much the same. Though I just haven't been playing as much because I gotta protect my stats and I'm bad now. But I think
Camp that
what interests
KD.
me about gotta keep up that KD. What interests me about the way that they phrased it is they definitely seem to want to make Crucible more competitive. Because previously, outside of Skirmish and Salvage, really, and maybe Rumble, sixes were really uncompetitive because they were just sort of going and have fun, right? And then Iron Banner is the same thing. Despite everything they talk about Iron Banner is a massive shitstorm with everything goes everywhere, so it's not competitive. And then in Trials, it was competitive, of course, because you had formed teams and you went in and you tried to win because you actually had an incentive for the first time. But, we all know how that ended up panning out and balancing issues and what. So it was sort of odd there because you had, modes that were supposed to be casual and everyone just went in to sort of chill and blast dudes. Then you had the other modes where people went in and, were sweating and whatever. So just from the way that they explained in the reveal, it sounded like they wanted every mode to be a sort of sweat mode, if that makes sense, where they have the, informative display up top, they have the more information in the bottom left, equalize cooldowns and all that. So part of me really likes that. Part of me thinks that's a great idea, because one of the bigger issues, I think, with Crucible is that you do have those two very different schools of thought. You have the people that do just want to hang out and have fun, and then you have the people that actually want to, have a hard competitive environment. I guess it's the difference between a regular strike at 350 and a nightfall at 380 or whatever it is. You go in with different expectations. But the other part of me does worry about that, because there are the times when I want to just hop into control and, absolutely wreck or get wrecked, as it has been recently. And it seems that that'll be harder to do now that everything's 4v4 and is a bit more competitive there with the way that they bring things. So that's one point of contention. The other point is just that 4v4 is completely unorthogonal with everything else in Destiny. Everything else is based around 3. You have, 3 people in a patrol previously, or a regular fire team, 6 people in a raid, 9 people in the smaller patrol areas, 12 people in larger patrol areas, 3 subclasses, 3 weapons, everything. And now suddenly you have 4. And just
I
from
thought that was
just from a design perspective,
too.
that really annoys me. Now, it's probably the smarter option, because I believe all of the sweat communities have pretty much settled on doing 4 for their tournaments. So that makes sense, I guess, if you want a competitive PvP environment, though I'm not sure what the theory behind that is. But that just seems like a sort of blemish, I guess, even if it's the best decision.
What about you, Carlos? What were your thoughts on it?
For me, I picked up PvP seriously towards the end of House of Wolves, I believe. But looking at what Bungie did or what I feel they did in Destiny 1, which was to pretty much take us through a deliberate and kind of forced PvP tutorial style progression, where you can't really escape it. One way or another, you're going to jump into PvP, and vice versa, PvE. House of Wolves was very PvP focused. Taken King was semi-balanced between the two. But vanilla Destiny and Crota's End was very PvE oriented. So over time, everybody got into PvP little by little. And I think with 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, depending on when you joined, you already have some kind of, whether through quests, exotic quests, or just regular quests like the Shaxx quest, the Crucible quest, the subclass quest, something takes you there to PvP. So it's like Bungie has done a fantastic job of making sure everybody can say they are above crap, because the crap level of a PvP player in Destiny is not what you would call the crap level of a PvP player in, say, Gears of War or even Halo, because they kind of held our hands to learn a few things. Now, I'm looking at the format they're using for this one, the 4v4, matched with the call-out being shown, like the location you're in, you see the name. So they're unifying the call-outs. It's not like in this community, this is what we call it. Then in that community, this is what we call it. Then you meet someone and you have to agree what you call it if you're not from the same community. Now it's unified. So what I'm seeing them do is they're now taking all these people they've coached, be you a veteran or like a beginner person, you've learned enough to now be taken a little bit into that competitive atmosphere. So they have the 4v4, like King said, it's pretty much what the Sweat community is using. I've played a couple of Sweat matches with them, and I can see why they settled on 4v4. So I can also see why Bungie would go to 4v4, like trying to make people a little bit more invested now. Like, okay, we've shown you the ropes, we've given you a place to go do your thing with 6v6, so let's get you a little bit more serious, but still give you enough people to be able to help you. So you have 3 really good guys and maybe you being carried, say Trials, for instance, or whichever game mode you're playing. So the feeling I got is like Bungie now looks at everybody like, okay, a good number of the community is no longer like beginner level noobs. So let's step them up a notch, and they're doing that push with their PvP tutorial again. That's kind of what I see here. I hope they do it well, though. See how it goes.
Yeah, to what you both said, King, I agree completely that it feels very disjointed, and I was kind of surprised that when they went to the 4-player PvP, that there wasn't a 4-player fire team for strikes, missions, and patrols to go with that, because it just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to have the fire teams of 3, the fire teams of 4, and the fire teams of 6. And our big concern is we raid a lot, and immediately when they announced it, we just looked at each other and were like, oh fuck, because we'll get done with the raiding and we'll have our group of 6 that play together. And so the one thing you can do in Destiny 1 is go and you can run PvP together. And so looking at D2, it's like you're going to have to cut 2 people loose and say, well, sorry, 2 people have to go. And the response to that is, well, find another person and do 2, or another couple people and do 2 teams of 4 or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, you could, but
I shouldn't have to shuffle groups after one activity.
Yeah.
That's just silly.
Exactly.
And the weird thing is that they gave a talk at GDC probably a while ago, because Bungie talks a lot at GDC, and they mentioned that they very deliberately chose 3 people instead of 4 for their fire team size. I guess the argument was that in their research they found that people more naturally create groups of 3 because it's you and a buddy, then a buddy's buddy, or you and 2 buddies. I guess that's how it tends to work, and groups of 4 aren't as natural according to what they found. But now they have to completely break this. Because back in House of Wolves, which was like the epitome for groups of 3 endgame stuff, because you had trials and that other mode that was as interesting, Prison
of Elders, yeah. And
you just naturally formed into groups of 3, and since that lasted a while and that was a pretty good time, people have all these 3 groups, and now that's just going to be weird.
Putting it that way, I see your point, and I quite agree with you. It makes things a little funny how that is going to pan out, especially like when you finish an event. I don't know why they went for 4, other than the hypothesis I gave earlier, and why I think they did it in terms of competitive play. But with how it will work with matchmaking, I think by the time they're breaking up fire teams, say you finish a raid, you have 6 people, and you break up that fire team. I'm thinking maybe they're looking at their numbers and seeing more people where when they break up, it's only 3 or 4 people that were actually real friends playing together in the first place, and they had 1 or 2 people jump in. I'm thinking maybe that was it, which will tie into how they did their guided game system as well.
Yeah, maybe it's just a conspiracy to get groups of 4 to use guided game.
We talked a lot at the reveal with Hamrick about it, and we've spoken to Cosmo, and they said that essentially they did the testing, and the 4v4 was the premier play experience. It was the best experience that players could have PvPing, and that's what they wanted to put in the game. They wanted everyone to have the best experience they could have, and that was through all their testing what they found. But even hearing that, it's understandable, and a lot of D1 was a shit show of people quitting out of matches, of whatever happened, in PvP and D1. But that said, RedWingGirl and I were talking about this yesterday. It still would have been cool if there was some kind of option for players to go in, and if they were in that fire team of 6 to play with that bigger group, even if it was just a one-off game mode. Like now they have the legacy playlist where it's just kind of rotates between game modes between like Clash and Control or whatever, just to have just an offshoot clickable there where you can go and play sixes if you want, and like if 4v4 is the best experience, that's cool. But players that want to play in the bigger groups, they had that option. I don't know if that's something that they could do or not, but it just would have been nice to at least have some kind of option for the bigger fire teams.
They also quoted map design as being a reason, or at least I saw that quoted somewhere, and I assume it was a Bungie employee that said that. So we might see sixes introduced, but you'll be playing on maps designed for fours, which will be weird. But I mean, if you're just going in to have fun, it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, and I think they said that the private matches won't be in at launch either. So that's just
That's weird, but
yeah. Well, I think Trials is not going to be in at launch either. It's going to be something that comes in after. My guess was maybe even with the Osiris expansion, but from what I've heard, Trials isn't going to be in right at launch. But
I mean, theoretically, a raid won't be in right at launch either. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
So, what was everyone's favorite moment this week or the last few weeks? Carlos, start with you.
Well, I've not really been playing much, but my favorite moment has to be the reveal, of course. The last 2-3 weeks have been really busy for me, so my playtime has dropped. So Bungie, don't think I dropped your game. So, but the reveal was the high point for me. It was really awesome watching that reveal. That was definitely my high point. And I loved this Iron Banner. For me, it's the best Iron Banner experience I have had since vanilla. Call me weird, but that was my experience. I haven't had a 23-0 game. I completely loved it. It was just too much fun.
What class were you playing for the Mayhem Iron Banner?
I played Titan mostly, but that result I got with my Gunslinger. But mostly I was playing my Titan because I main a Titan. I just got to rank 5 with the other 2 classes and went back to my Titan.
Were you throwing trip mines, or what were you using with your Gunslinger?
Of course I was throwing trip mines. Oh, I love those trip mines. Basically, anytime there's Mayhem and I'm playing Mayhem with the Gunslinger, it's trip mines everywhere. That's pretty much what I do. I look at high traffic areas and I just lace it. Like, if you miss this, you get that one. Doesn't matter the map. There's always a place where you can do that. So when they nerfed trip mines, trust me, I was not too pissed. I was like, it's about time.
Well, I asked because there was all the talk of the sticky grenades and the fusion grenades and whatnot, and this last Mayhem Iron Banner, I actually did play my Gunslinger for the first time in forever, and it was cool. And obviously, Golden Gun is really good in Mayhem, but where I got the majority of my kills, and I found that I got more kills with my grenades on my Gunslinger than I did on when I was playing my Sunsinger using Solar or Fusion, and even then I got more with the Solar than the Fusion. But was the Gunslinger incendiary grenades are just absolutely fucking beastly, and I mean, I was just decimating people with them, and they actually burn out, and the dot was killing people as to where my Sunsinger dot, even with Viking Funeral, never seems to really kill anyone. So yeah, the Gunslinger incendiary grenades are incredible.
What about you, Cepheus?
Definitely when they announced semi-dedicated servers and everyone had to stop their bit. I'm kidding. I had a really good VOG run on Tuesday. People were cracking jokes and everything just went really smoothly, and it was sort of the definitive Destiny experience that where, I mean, just everything went well and everything was great and everybody was having a good time.
Did you get the Vex?
I did not get the Vex. I got the boots, and that was it. And maybe Praetorian foil. Funny story, I never got a Praetorian foil on PS4 despite the fact that I've rated VOG 500 million times. Every time I've done VOG since then on Xbox, I've gotten a Praetorian foil.
That's kind of funny.
It's really fun.
Have you gotten the shader?
No, I haven't. Haven't done the Atheon challenge mode yet either, because that sounds painful with the sort of groups I run with usually.
Really? You have not tried
Dude, are you on
challenge
Xbox?
mode?
You should come and raid with us. We raid like all the time.
Sure. Yeah, I have a friend convinced me to buy it on Xbox over Christmas last year. So I've got a guy that's like 380 something, or yeah, almost 390 with, spattering of weapons and whatever. It's my GIMP account. I don't plan it that often, because why would I, people joke about the Destiny grind, but what's even worse about the Destiny grind is grinding when you've already have everything on a separate account.
Yeah, from there though.
It really kills your motivation.
It does. Cosmo was asking us if we were going to get the PC version, and I'm just like, no. Besides the fact that I'm not a PC gamer, I mean, I played Eve when it first came out, but I'm just not a PC gamer. I like consoles, and I'm dedicated to Xbox because basically Halo, but, other reasons too. All of my friends are here on Xbox, and I just can't imagine, ranking up all characters again on another console. That would just be crazy.
If PC released at the same time, I would definitely think about buying it there, but since it's releasing later, no. Dear God, no, not unless there's cloud save, which would be super nice. I'm surprised to hear that you played Eve when it first came out and then stopped. Most people don't win at Eve like that.
Eve was just too not what I was expecting. I mean, it took forever to play the game, and I don't know, I didn't like it. I'm just more of the kind of person that just likes to get into the game and immediately play the game. And with Eve, it's you had to go get salvage, and you had to I don't know. It took too long.
Personally, I hope Destiny moves more towards Eve, but that's because I'm a sociopath.
Well, did you just read the other day they said a couple of really weak ships just took out a major outpost or something on Eve? It's
yeah,
every
I
once
think
in
a bunch of Russians got together and screwed up some NPC event.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
So, RedWingGirl, what was your favorite moment playing of the last week or two?
Well, we played Trials yesterday.
Yes,
and
we did.
I am not a Trials player at all, because I just don't like 3v3, which I'm concerned about the 4v4 because of that reason. But we had a couple of really good games. I mean, we got our ass handed to us a bunch of times, but I had fun. I actually didn't stress out about it because we were just doing it for the bounties, and I actually enjoyed doing it. So that was probably my highlight. I haven't really done too much other than that. I mean, we've been playing the raids almost nonstop, so I finally got the Vex, so that was good, and I finally got the really cool shader that I wanted. So now I just need the Vision of Confluence Legendary and one other shader, and I've got everything.
Malevolent and the kitty cloak. You need the kitty cloak.
Oh yeah, I can't get the damn kitty cloak.
Trials cloak?
Yeah, it never drops for me. It drops for everybody
pretty
else, but it
entertaining.
never drops for me. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that was cool. Playing Trials, and it was cool because you always say that you can't play and you can't compete, but you did and had lots of clutch moments in the games. It's just too bad that there weren't more close games. And yeah, we got blown out a lot, but the games we were winning, it was like we were either losing 5-0 or winning 5-0.
So I was going to ask Souls what your favorite moment was.
So I think my favorite moment was it wasn't actually playing. We did have fun playing Trials. That was cool. But I think talking to Cosmo, and Cosmo was telling us a story about how he saw early build or preview of the cinematic from the start of the reveal trailer, and he was saying that, you know, it got to the scene with Zavala and the ship flying up to the sky and the little girl, and he said, whichever the dev that was showing it to him, he said he looked at it and he looked at them and he said, "Oh my God, is that Amanda Holiday?" and the dev's like, yeah, and like just said like it's just like was just so moving for him, and I just thought that was really cool because again, you know, they're fans of the game too, and just the way he told the story, and just much like Deej, you know, and how moved he was sitting next to Zavala at the premiere. It was just cool hearing his reaction to seeing it, and because like, you know, it was the same as our reaction, you know, when we found out, like, holy fuck, that's little Amanda Holiday, and, you know, watching the ship go up to the sky. So I just thought that was really cool.
Wait a minute. You mentioned it earlier, and I think I got you wrong. Are you talking about the little girl that came up to Zavala's side as they were watching the first ship fly out from the tower?
Yes, that's little Amanda Holiday.
Oh my God, that was Amanda Holiday?
Yes.
Damn.
Yep. So we didn't catch it during it, but Anon Pig was tweeting it out shortly after the reveal ended, and so I went back and watched it after, and I was like, holy shit. But yeah, so it was just cool hearing his reaction to seeing it. So I would like to thank both of you for joining us here today. It was great having you both back on. Really appreciate you taking the time to be with us on episode 50.
Great being here.
Yeah, it was awesome being here. Always great.
RedWingGirl, as always, it's wonderful to be here with you today, and just talk Destiny again with the community on another episode.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm getting really excited now that D2, we're starting to talk more about D2, and it's always been about, you know, what can we do in D1 and what I want to hope in D2, and of course that conversation will still happen, but I'm really ready for D2. I mean, we were talking about it yesterday, and I'm over it. I'm ready for D2. Just bring it. I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, it's I'm ready for the beta. Hopefully it's sooner than later. I'm hoping that it's they announce it at E3 and it drops right after, but we'll see. But I'm just excited for everyone to get to play it, Carlos, King, and everyone out there listening, because it is something that we really enjoyed, and it's tough going back and playing D1 now after experiencing the new things. So everyone out there listening on iTunes, Podbean, SoundCloud, watching on YouTube, as always, appreciate your support of the Destiny Truthcast. If you would like to participate and join us, reach out to RedWingGirl and myself and let us know, because we'd love to have you on and talk a little Destiny. And
don't forget to follow us on Twitter.
Twitter, Destiny Truthcast, minus the E at the beginning. And yeah, just I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a lovely day ahead.
Thanks, guys. That's a wrap.